Good morning, everyone. I want to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for joining this workshop today. Your presence here as experienced professionals in the field is truly humbling, and I feel privileged to have the opportunity to share this space with you. I want to acknowledge and honor the wisdom and expertise that each of you brings to this room, of course, and I truly value your insights and experiences, and I believe that we have so much to learn from each other. I want to emphasize that this workshop is not about me presenting a set of rigid guidelines or solutions. It's rather an exploration of different perspectives and approaches through a culturally sensitive lens, and it is about creating space for open discussions, for reflections and exchanges where we can collectively learn and grow. I also invite each of you actively to participate in discussions, to share your thoughts and challenge existing notions, and your brilliance and diverse perspectives will undoubtedly enrich our collective understanding and contribute to the depth of exploration. Throughout the workshop, please know that I'm here as a facilitator, but also as a learner. I do encourage you to reach out to me privately if you have any additional inputs, questions, or insights that you would like to share, and of course, your contributions are invaluable and will help shape our collective understanding of working with perpetrator migrants in a culturally sensitive manner. And in the spirit of collaboration, I want us to explore together what strategies and approaches presented in this workshop are feasible within your respective contexts. And it's important to acknowledge that every situation is unique and adaptation to specific circumstances are crucial. And I'm genuinely excited to embark this journey with all of you, and I look forward to the rich discussions, reflections, and exchanges that lie ahead. So, going to the next slide. I'm aware that this topic is very sensitive, and it is also very emotionally charged and often misunderstood due to connection between the terms perpetrator and refugees, migrants. And as a person of color, as an anti-racist trainer and GBV expert who has worked with horrifying and extreme situations in the past within the migrant population, and maybe above all as someone who has been engaged in very challenging situations, I do believe that we can come together and we can explore it further without judgment. As this workshop aims to explore the topic of working with perpetrator migrants from a culturally sensitive perspective, it is important to approach the subject matter with sensitivity, respect, and a commitment to understanding the complexities involved. Please note that the information shared in this workshop is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as legal advice, of course. The intention of this workshop is to foster constructive dialogue and promote cultural awareness regarding the challenges faced by migrant and refugee men who may be perpetrators of harm. And we do acknowledge that this topic is sensitive and complex, and it is crucial to approach it without perpetuating stereotypes, stigmatization, or discrimination. It is very important to remember that culture is not an excuse for violence. While we aim to understand the cultural context that may influence behavior, it is vital to emphasize that no cultural or social norms justify acts of violence or harm towards others. Also, it is important to note that the views expressed by me as a facilitator and you as a participant are their own and may not reflect the perspectives of all individuals or communities. We also encourage an open, respectful atmosphere for discussion where diverse viewpoints are welcome. Also, this workshop does not endorse or promote harmful behavior, but rather seeks to explore strategies and approaches that contribute to the prevention and intervention efforts with perpetrators while considering cultural context and sensitivities. Also, for me personally, and most importantly, by participating in this workshop, you acknowledge and agree to engage in discussions with respect, with cultural sensitivity, a commitment to promoting understanding and positive change. And with with that being said, a big thank you in advance for your understanding and cooperation. Let's proceed with the workshop in a constructive and compassionate manner. Here's just a list of frequently used words that I'm going to use as a kind of trigger warning for you all. So what might be triggering is the term refugees, migrants. It can be socially charged, power dynamics, white privilege, racial bias, and empathy. As we delve into the subject, it's natural for a range of emotions to arise within us. So curiosity might drive our quest for understanding, but we also find ourselves confused by the complexities involved. Empathy might emerge as we strive to comprehend the experiences and challenges faced by these individuals. However, it is essential to acknowledge that discomfort might accompany our exploration of the sensitive topic. And we may also encounter anger, frustration, and even guilt as we grapple with the realities of violence perpetrated by some within migrant and refugee communities. And yet, also amongst these emotions, we can find solace and compassion, sympathy, extending our support to survivors and acknowledging the importance of intervention for those who have caused harm. Also, of course, sadness and shock may touch us. We might have experienced horrible stories and witnessed consequences of such violence. However, yet, let us not forget that hope persists within this conversation. I also hope that maybe reflection can lead us to empowering strategies that foster positive change. And most of all, remember that we're here to engage in meaningful dialogue, respecting diverse perspectives and cultural sensitivities, and together we can navigate these emotions using them as a tool for growth, for understanding, and most importantly, for well-being of all involved. I also want to create a safe and inclusive space where we can engage in open dialogue and learn from another and foster understanding. So in this workshop, I strive to establish a space free from judgment, where your experiences are respected and valued. Also confidentiality and trust are foundational principles, ensuring that what is shared within this space remains confidential. And which is why together I would like to set ground rules that promote respect, open-mindedness, and active listening. I also invite you to embrace diverse perspectives, use non-judgmental language, and create an environment where everyone's voice can be heard. And also, as your facilitator, I will do my best to lead by example. So let's approach this workshop with empathy, respect, and willingness to challenge ourselves, so together we can create a safe space and inclusive space, of course, where we can learn and grow. As for the goals, we aim to develop cultural sensitivity, recognizing the impact of culture and behavior of these individuals, and by understanding the cultural factors and contexts, we can better navigate the complexities of the experiences. Also equally important is enhancing our professional knowledge and strategies, and this empowers us to work effectively with this population, taking into account cultural nuances and tailoring our approaches accordingly. And also my goal is to challenge stereotypes and biases, fostering a nuanced and empathetic mindset, and by examining our preconceptions, we can create a safe space that promotes understanding and avoids harmful stereotypes. And by understanding power dynamics, we fill a crucial point, and we must recognize the imbalances at play and actively address them. And this workshop also seeks to increase awareness of the complex factors involved, such as cultural trauma, migration experiences, and appreciating these intersections allows us to respond more comprehensively and compassionately. And lastly, we also emphasize the importance of the asset-based approach. So before we dive into our current discussions, let's start with an icebreaker activity to get to know each other a little bit better and create a comfortable atmosphere. This activity is designed to help us connect on a personal level and build rapport. So it is important for us to create an inclusive space, as I mentioned before. During this activity, I encourage each of you to share a personal story related to cultural sensitivity or working with diverse populations. It can be a positive experience, a lesson learned, or a challenge to overcome. Please remember that this is a non-judgmental zone, and we share to support each other, and by sharing our stories we can gain insights and learn from one another, foster empathy, and it also helps us to understand the diverse perspectives in this room and appreciate the richness of our collective experiences. And I wholeheartedly encourage active participation and respect listening during the activity and all other activities. So now we talk about the icebreaker outcomes. What did you discover during your activity that surprised you or resonated with you? How might these shared experiences help us in our understanding of work and with migrant refugee perpetrators? What insights or lessons can we draw from this activity to approach our work in a culturally sensitive manner? When addressing such topics like domestic violence, it is crucial to recognize the importance of working differently with perpetrator migrant men compared to, for instance, white men. And this approach is necessary due to the unique challenges and considerations associated with migration, cultural differences, and intersectionality. And to effectively engage with perpetrator migrant men, we must approach them with culturally sensitive understanding, respect for diverse cultural norms, values, experiences, and by doing so we can build trust to overcome barriers and increase the likelihood of success, engagement, and behavior change. Migrant men often face additional stressors related to the migration process, displacement, language barriers, and acculturation challenges that can impact their well-being and behavior. And addressing these migration-led stressors and traumas, it is crucial to providing appropriate support and interventions. And the experiences are shaped by the intersections of various identities, including ethnicity, race, migration status, socioeconomic background, and recognizing these complexities help us to understand the multiple factors, including influencing these behaviors, enable us to address their specific needs. And we must consider the legal complexities and systematic barriers that perpetrator migrant men may face. And immigration status concerns can significantly impact their ability to seek help or engage in intervention programs. Also, working differently involves providing information, referrals that support within legal and systemic frameworks. And by adopting a comprehensive and inclusive approach, we can ensure that our interventions are culturally sensitive and also responsive to the needs of perpetrator migrant men. So also when it comes to working with perpetrator migrant men, one size does not fit at all. So tailored intervention strategies are crucial for effectively addressing the unique needs and circumstances of this population, and by developing targeted approach that incorporate cultural frameworks, language support, and community engagement, we can ensure that our interventions are relevant, engaging, and effective. And this means understanding and respecting their diverse cultural norms, values, experiences, adapting our strategies accordingly. And it means providing services in their native language, utilizing interpreters to overcome language barriers and to ensure effective communication. And it means also actively engaging with community organizations, cultural mediators, and support networks to tap into their expertise and knowledge. Also, perpetrator migrant men often face significant barriers that hinder their engagement in intervention programs, and these barriers can include lack of trust, language barriers, fears of interpretation, and to overcome these obstacles, it is crucial to build trust by creating a safe and non-judgmental environment, and this involves demonstrating empathy, actively listening to their concerns, and respecting their unique experiences, and addressing language barriers through language support and providing access to interpreters. allow for effective communication, understanding, and additionally addressing fears of deportation by providing information, reassurance, and referrals to appropriate legal resources that can increase engagement and foster a sense of safety and trust. And perpetrator migrant men may face challenges in accessing necessary resources to support the behavior and change. These challenges can be related to immigration status or lack of knowledge with available support systems, and to address these barriers, it is important to provide them with information referrals and support them with legal and systemic frameworks. This may involve connecting them with immigration lawyers, social services, or community organizations that specialize in providing support to these populations, and by ensuring access to resources, we empower them to navigate these systems effectively and receive the assistance they need. In addressing power dynamics, it is important to recognize the power dynamic in understanding the behaviors and experiences of perpetrator migrant men. And these dynamics are influenced by various intersecting identities such as ethnicity, race, migration status, socioeconomic background, and by acknowledging these factors, we can gain insights into the underlying power imbalances that contribute to domestic violence, and it is crucial to address these power dynamics with the intervention process and provide perpetrator migrant men with opportunities to reflect and challenge the privilege and entitlement that may be associated with their identities. And by fostering awareness and understanding, we empower them to develop healthier and more equitable relationships. Also, of course, the ultimate goal of working with these populations is to achieve positive outcomes, including more impactful interventions and positive behavior change. And by implementing tailored intervention strategies, overcoming barriers, providing access to resources, and addressing power dynamics, we increase the likelihood of achieving these outcomes. And positive behavior change may not only benefit the individual perpetrator, but also contributes to the creation of healthier communities, of course. So now the question is, what do we need to consider when asking ourselves, who is the migrant refugee man? What are your thoughts? I want to hear your experiences. An example would be someone who left their home country and has to start from you. Just tell me anything that comes to mind. You can put it in the comments too. So taking your answers and my thoughts on this. So when working with migrant men and refugee men, it is crucial to acknowledge and address the possible traumatic experiences they may have faced throughout the journey. So these men have often been exposed to violence, conflict, or displacement, which can have profound impact on their mental health, of course, and their emotional well-being. And these traumatic experiences can shape their perceptions, coping mechanisms, and interpersonal dynamics. So as you probably know, it is essential to create a safe space and supportive environment that recognizes and validates the trauma, provide trauma-informed care that address their unique needs. And additionally, it is important to recognize and respect the diverse cultural backgrounds from which these men come. So each culture has its own set of norms, values, and attitudes towards gender roles and relationships. And by understanding and appreciating these cultural differences, we can avoid imposing our own assumptions or biases onto their experiences. And it means to recognize the ways in which their cultural background influences their beliefs, expectations, and behaviors related to gender roles and relationships. Also, migration itself presents a unique set of challenges for these men. Language barriers, as mentioned before, can hinder effective communication and understanding, and many of these men may be learning new language or rely on interpreters, which can make it difficult for them to express themselves or fully access the support they need. And also so-called acculturation stress is another challenge commonly experienced by migrants. And so this means that this stress can stem from the process of adapting to a new culture, include societal norms, practices, and expectations, and can create significant emotional and psychological strain. Also, on top of everything else, being unfamiliar with legal and social systems in the host countries can be, of course, overwhelming and confusing. Also, when working with migrant and refugee men, it's important to recognize the intersectional nature of their identities, which can go more into detail later. These men carry them with a multitude of intersecting identities, including ethnicity, race, migration status, and socioeconomic background. These intersecting identities shape their experiences, perspectives, and the challenges they might face. And one significant challenge by migrant and refugee men is limited access to resources, support systems, knowledge, and available services. Often they find themselves in unfamiliar surroundings, lacking the necessary information and connections to navigate their environments. And emotional well-being is another crucial aspect to consider when working with migrant and refugee men. Many of these men may have experienced significant trauma during migration journey and also in their home countries, of course. These traumatic experiences can have profound impact on their mental health, leading to conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety. And then building community and social connections is vital for the integration of well-being of migrant and refugee men in their host country, and feeling a sense of belonging and being part of a supportive community contributes to their overall happiness and resilience, which is something they're often lacking. And cultural sensitivity is paramount in our interventions with migrant and refugee men, and their unique cultural backgrounds, trauma history, and challenges require tailored and sensitive approaches, which is something that reportedly is not provided, as many professionals lack cultural sensitivity and competencies. So before I dive into the vulnerabilities of the target group, I want to say that it's important to acknowledge and understand the vulnerabilities, and it's also crucial to empathize that these vulnerabilities should never excuse violent behavior. Instead, they provide valuable context for developing effective interventions and support systems. So, when we speak of vulnerabilities, imagine the experience of cultural dislocation where migrant men grapple with an identity crisis and the displacement from their cultural roots. So this disconnection can leave them feeling adrift, searching for a sense of belonging in a new environment. And as mentioned before, language barriers further compound the challenges faced by these men. So limited proficiency in the host country's language barrier hinders effective communication and restricts their access to support services. And this isolation can perpetuate feelings of frustration and helplessness. And the lack of social support is another crucial vulnerability. So separation from family and community networks leaves them feeling isolated and alone. And within the usual support systems, these men may struggle to find a sense of belonging and connection, increasing their vulnerabilities to engage harmful behaviors. And post-trauma experiences also weigh heavily on their mental and emotional well-being. Many have had traumatic events before and during the migration journeys, and these experiences can leave deep scars, sense of belonging and connection, increasing vulnerability to engaging in harmful behaviors. And disrupted social networks further contribute to their vulnerability. The loss of established support systems increase their feelings of isolation, leaving them without a safety net. And this lack of support can contribute to a sense of desperation or increased susceptibility and harmful influences. And discrimination, racism are unfortunate realities that these men often face. So marginalization, low self-esteem, and increased stress are consequences of discrimination they encounter both in their daily lives and also within larger societal structures. And limited access to essential resources such as housing, healthcare poses additional challenges. Systemic barriers often prevent them from accessing the support they need to establish stable lives in their new communities, and the lack of resources can intensify their feeling of vulnerability and impede their progress. Also, anxiety and stress related to uncertain immigration status is another significant concern. So constant worries about their legal standing in the host country that add immense pressure to their lives, making it more challenging to address their vulnerabilities effectively. And also cultural clashes and acculturation challenges are also prevalent, so adopting new cultural norms can be overwhelming, and these men may struggle to reconcile their beliefs and traditions with those who host the society, and this friction can lead to confusion and frustration, potentially impacting their behavior. And finally, post-migration stressors, including challenges in employment, community integration, and also increase their vulnerabilities. In understanding the experiences of this population, it is important to recognize the unique stressors they face. So as mentioned before, cultural adaptation and acculturation stress can have significant impact on their well-being. And adjusting to new culture, language, and social norms can be overwhelming and challenging. And these individuals may experience a sense of disconnection from the home country, may struggle to find a sense of belonging in their new environment, and the stress of navigating these cultural adaptations may manifest in various ways, including anxiety, depression, difficulties in interpersonal relationships. And then there's, of course, economic insecurity and financial instability, which are common challenges faced by migrant men and refugee individuals. Limited access to employment opportunities, language barriers, lack of knowledge with local systems that can hinder their economic stability. This insecurity can lead to increased stress, limited access to basic needs, and a sense of powerlessness. Social isolation and limited support networks are often experienced by migrant and refugee individuals. Being in a new country with limited connections and support networks can lead to a feeling of loneliness, alienation. It is important to provide opportunities for social integration and also to facilitate the formation of support networks. And this can be done through community events, cultural gatherings, mentorship programs, and connect individuals with existing support systems. And by addressing social isolation, we can foster a sense of belonging and support individuals in their journey of integration and adjustment. As mentioned before, discrimination and xenophobia can add stressors to their lives. This may encounter prejudice, stereotypes, and exclusion based on their cultural background, ethnicity, and immigration status. And educational obstacles can pose significant challenges for migrant and refugee individuals. Limited access to quality education and unfamiliarity with education systems can hinder their education progress and future opportunities. Navigating dual expectations is a complex process for migrant and refugee individuals. They may face the challenge of balancing their cultural heritage with the expectation and values of the host country, and this can create internal conflicts and a sense of identity struggle. And it is important to provide support and guidance in navigating these dual cultural expectations. And feeling of shame and dependency is a common emotional experience among migrant and refugee individuals. They may feel a sense of shame due to their displacement and rely on support systems, which I will go more into detail later. In the process of migration, it often entails a significant loss of social roles and status for individuals, so leaving behind their familiar social structures and communities can lead to disorientation and a sense of disempowerment. The loss of social roles that once defined with identity can contribute to feelings of uncertainty and difficulty in navigating their new environment. And within their community, migrant individuals can face cultural and language barriers that hinder their ability to seek support and connect with others to share their experience. Also, difference in dialects, traditions, and social norms can create challenges in community and access resources, and access to culturally appropriate interventions is crucial for the well-being of recovery of migrant individuals. So unfortunately, the availability of culturally sensitive programs may be limited, making it challenging for individuals to access the need. Also, stigma and shame within the community and host society can significantly impact the well-being and reintegration of migrant individuals. And they may face stigmatizations due to their migration status or cultural differences, leading to isolation and marginalization. And as mentioned before, migration experiences often involve pre-existing trauma and hardships, which can have a lasting impact on individuals' mental health and well-being. So the emotional and psychological consequences of these experiences require support and trauma-informed care. And balancing cultural expectations of masculinity with host country expectations can create internal conflicts and pressure to conform for migrant individuals. So cultural ideals of masculinity can differ from the norms and expectations in the host country, leading to a sense of confusion and tension. Also, as mentioned before, shame and honor culture are frameworks in which individuals' actions and behaviors reflect upon the reputation and honor of their family and community. So here I'll list like just a few examples for you to understand. So for instance, honor-based violence is a complex issue that some individuals from certain cultural backgrounds may face, and their community's actions are often seen as a reflection upon the reputation of the family or the community. And this perception can lead to situations where violence is used to protect family honor, and it is important for us to understand the cultural dynamics that are at play and address the issue with sensitivity, to recognize that interventions must involve working with families, community leaders, and religious authorities to challenge harmful beliefs and practices. Also, stigmatization and social exclusion are significant challenges faced by individuals from migrant communities. So within their cultural communities, they may encounter stigmatization and prejudice, which can strain relationships and can lead to social exclusion. And this isolation can worsen existing issues that can create barriers to seeking support and intervention. And the fear of losing status and respect can be a powerful motivator for individuals from migrant communities. So deviating from traditional gender roles and expectations may be seen as a threat to their social standing and respect within their communities. And this fear can contribute to abusive behavior as they try to uphold these expectations. So cultural expectations place immense pressure on individuals from migrant communities to conform to rigid ideas of masculinity, and these expectations can reinforce through cultural, social, and family dynamics to create an environment where abusive behavior is perpetrated. And by challenging harmful notions of masculinities and promoting alternative models that embrace empathy, emotional expression, and respectful relationships, we can help individuals navigate these pressures and redefine their understanding of masculinity. Also, shame plays a significant role in help-seeking behavior of individuals in migrant communities. So the fear of judgment, rejection, or further stigmatization often discourages them from seeking help or intervention. And overcoming this barrier requires creating a safe and non-judgmental space where individuals feel supported and understood. So if you want, share your wisdom for a minute. I want to hear more from you. and your very valued wisdom if you feel comfortable to share. So if you can provide examples of specific stressors you have encountered and how they have influenced your interactions with the target group, and how do you ensure that you maintain a balance between emphasizing what the stressors experienced by perpetrators while holding them accountable for their actions. What are your thoughts? Let me know. So now the next point is why intersectionality. I've been mentioning this a lot. So I believe that it is crucial for us to understand how intersecting factors shape their experience and influence their challenges, stresses, and vulnerabilities. So intersectionality is a powerful concept that recognizes the complex and interconnected nature of social identities. It also acknowledges that individuals hold multiple intersecting identities, such as race, gender, and, for instance, sexuality. Also ethnicity, excuse me, and socioeconomic background, and these identities shape their experience and challenge in unique ways. Also, by understanding and embracing intersectionality, we can develop more inclusive and effective interventions that address the specific needs of individuals. And by acknowledging diverse identities is a fundamental aspect of intersectionality. It requires recognizing and valuing the diverse experience and vulnerabilities that arise from intersections of different social identities. And each person's journey is shaped by the unique combination of identities, and by acknowledging this diversity, and we can ensure that interventions are tailored to their specific needs and experiences. And addressing power dynamics is crucial when working from an intersectional perspective. Power imbalances relate to social identities and can influence access to resources, opportunities, and support systems. And tailoring interventions is another key aspect of intersectional approaches. Culturally sensitive interventions that consider intersecting factors are essential to address the diverse needs of individuals, and this involves recognizing the influence of various identities to understand cultural contexts and adapting strategies to effectively engage and support individuals from different backgrounds. Also, challenging biases and stereotypes is an important step in promoting intersectional understanding, and it is crucial to avoid generalizations and instead foster a nuanced understanding of experiences. And this requires actively challenging biases, examining your own assumptions, and embracing diverse narratives and perspectives. And also by promoting inclusive approach, and social justice is a core of intersectional approaches. So this involves advocating for equitable access to resources, opportunities, and support services for individuals from marginalized communities. And it also requires addressing systemic barriers that perpetuate inequalities and working towards broader and social change. So here's a list of potential needs of the target population. So as you all know much better than I do, of course, accountability and rehabilitation is a crucial aspect when working with perpetrators. It involves implementing programs and interventions that hold them accountable for their actions while providing opportunities for rehabilitation and behavior change. Cultural sensitivity is an essential need when providing support to perpetrators from diverse cultural backgrounds. It involves recognizing and respecting their unique cultural background, beliefs and values, understanding cultural norms and masculinity and family dynamics, especially important as these factors can influence their behaviors and perceptions of gender roles. And as mentioned before several times, trauma-informed care is a critical need when working with perpetrators, as many of them may have experienced traumas of their lives. Addressing trauma experiences and providing appropriate care that considers their emotional and psychological well-being. Also, Language access is a key aspect of potential needs for effective interventions. Ensuring access to services in their preferred language is vital for effective communication, understanding, but also trained workers who are experienced in that kind of work and an active, unbiased way. And social integration support is an important need. Assisting them navigating and integrating them into communities is essential for their reintegration process. And this includes accessing social services, employment opportunities, education, and community support. More potential needs are anger and emotion management, developing coping mechanisms to regulate their emotions and harmful behaviors, education skills development. Education is a powerful tool for empowerment and positive change, providing opportunities for education, skill building. Vocational training can enhance self-esteem, and it can also increase employability to contribute a sense of purpose and fulfillment. And also by equipping individuals with necessary skills, we empower them to make positive contributions to society. And another need is trauma healing and mental health support. So often underlying issues such as past traumas, untreated mental health concerns contribute to harmful behaviors. And access to mental health services, trauma-focused therapy, counseling, and support groups are essential for addressing these underlying issues. And of course, legal support systems, understanding rights, navigating legal processes can be overwhelming and challenging for individuals seeking rehabilitation. So it would be beneficial to provide them with legal support and guidance to ensure they understand their rights and responsibilities. And also urgent need for community reintegration. Successful rehabilitation goes beyond individual change. It involves reintegrating individuals into their communities as responsible citizens. So why considering needs are important? So by addressing the specific needs, we can promote rehabilitation and behavior change, which are accountability and rehabilitation. So effective programs and interventions hold individuals accountable for their actions while providing opportunities for rehabilitation and behavior change. So by creating a structured environment that promotes personal responsibility and consequences for harmful behaviors, we empower individuals to take ownership of their actions and make meaningful changes. So once again, understanding cultural norms around masculinity, family dynamic, and other aspects can help create a safe and inclusive space for individuals to feel understood and respected. So as you know by now, a trauma-informed approach ensures that interventions are sensitive to their trauma history, promote healing, and minimize re-traumatization. And it is important to acknowledge the need for providing, supporting, and access social services, employment opportunities, education, and community support networks. And by helping individuals build connections, establish stability, and also by participating in positive community activities, we foster their social integration and well-being. So before we go into Ahmed's case, it is also important to discuss the risks, which are safety concerns and emotional, psychological impacts, which are loss of identity and belonging, and employment and housing barriers. So here's a case study, which of course fully invented. It's also a very best case, probably not too good, probably too good to be true. and it's illustrating a successful intervention where the needs of perpetrator migrant men are met. So to consider, Ahmad's background is shed light on the profound impact of displacement and the trauma he experienced as a result of war in his home country. So the journey to a new land brought with it a multitude of challenges, including the loss of his family surrounding separation of the loved ones, and the disruption of his social and cultural fabric. So the profound effect of displacement and the exposure of violence and conflict during this journey significantly contributed to the complexities he faced. So here's the background again. In the community-based organizations, a team of therapists and social workers embarked a program aimed at addressing the needs of perpetrator migrant men. One such participant, Ahmed, a migrant from a Middle Eastern country, had a history of domestic violence and was referred to the program by legal system. So in working with Ahmed, they recognized the importance of accountability and rehabilitation. So Ahmed required a structured program that held him responsible for his actions and provided opportunities for rehabilitation and behavior change. So cultural sensitivity played a crucial role in their approach. They understood Ahmed's cultural background and the impact of cultural norms on his behavior. They tailored their interventions to align with cultural beliefs and values, creating a safe and supportive environment for Ahmed for his growth. And they acknowledged the influence of masculinity expectations, family dynamics, and communication styles prevalent in his culture. They also recognized the significance of trauma-informed care in supporting Ahmed's journey. So Ahmed had experienced war and forced migration, which had profound impact on his emotional well-being. And language access was another important consideration. So Ahmed has limited proficiency in the local language, so they made sure interpreters were present during the sessions. And these interpreters were experienced in perpetrator work and used unbiased language, so this ensured that Ahmed's thoughts and feelings were accurately conveyed and understood, enabling meaningful engagement in the therapeutic process. So during the intervention, Ahmed was able to gain insights and took responsibility and developed behavioral change strategies. The integration of his cultural values made him feel seen, and during the intervention he could reflect on masculinity, expectations, family dynamic, and communication styles. Counseling helped him to understand coping strategies, and the interpreters during the intervention were also well trained and ensured a fluid and meaningful engagement in the therapy. So throughout Ahmad's journey, remarkable progress and development were evident. So he demonstrated self-awareness, empathy, and improved emotional regulation. And through support of the team and his peers, Ahmed gained deeper understanding of healthy relationships, conflict resolution, and effective communication. And his successful completion of the program marked the beginning of his reintegration journey. So equipped with necessary skills and tools, Ahmed embarked a path of responsible citizenship and community engagement. He actively engaged in post-program support, including vocational training, education opportunities, and ongoing counseling. So yeah, this is the case study invented to show the power of cultural sensitivity and trauma-informed care. And by addressing Ahmed's individual needs and providing the necessary support, the team facilitated his transformation and successful reintegration into the community. So here's an exercise for you all. So if you had unlimited resources and support, what bold initiatives or projects would you develop to address the root causes of perpetration among migrant and refugee men? This question I will put into breakout rooms. I have like 3 different questions that you can choose from. If you want, you can all 3 of them, depending on the time you have left. So yeah. One of my favorite questions here is, imagine you have a magic wand that can instantly remove one specific challenge or stressors faced by perpetrator migrant men. Which one would you choose and why? How would its elimination impact their lives? Next point is, if you had unlimited resources to support, what bold initiatives or projects would you develop to address the root causes of perpetration among migrant refugee men? And create an imaginary support system and intervention program specifically designed for perpetrator migrant men. What innovative features or approaches would you include to address their unique challenges and vulnerabilities? See you in 30 minutes or longer. So, now that we're back after the break, let's talk about bias, a brief explanation. So, bias in the simplest term refers to the inclination or prejudice towards or against a particular person, group, or idea. It is a subtle force that influences perception, decisions, and actions, often without us even realizing it. The bias can take various forms. One is from cognitive bias, which represents patterns of thinking that deviate from rationality or objective reasoning. These biases shape how we interpret information, make judgments, and form beliefs. They can lead us to make hasty generalizations or jump to conclusions based on limited evidence. Another form of implicit bias, also known as unconscious bias, these are attitudes, beliefs, or stereotypes that are unintentional or automatic. They're deeply rooted in societal and cultural conditioning, shaping our behaviors and interactions with others. And also implicit biases can influence our perceptions of people based on their race, gender, or characteristics, leading to discriminatory behaviors. Confirmation bias is also another type of bias that affects us. It involves seeking, interpreting, or recalling information in a way that informs or supports our existing beliefs. We tend to disregard or downplay information that challenges or contradicts our views. And this bias can create echo chambers where we surround ourselves only with perspectives that align with our own, reinforcing our biases and limiting our understanding of diverse viewpoints. Stereotyping bias is another common form of bias. It involves making assumptions or generalizations about individuals, group, or based on perceived characteristics. These biases often oversimplify the richness and diversity of human experiences, leading to unfair judgments and discriminations. In the group bias, the tendency to favor and show preferential treatment towards members of our own social cultural identity group, and this manifests in subtle ways such as through favoritism, exclusion, and contribute to divisions and conflicts between groups. Lastly, selection bias occurs when there's a systematic error in the process of selecting participants' data or information. This can lead to skewed or unrepresentative sample, impacting the validity of research findings or decision-making process. And understanding bias is essential for promoting fairness, equity, and inclusivity. And by recognizing the existence of bias in various forms, we can strive to challenge and overcome these biases. And it requires conscious effort, self-reflection, and empathy to dismantle preconceived notions and embrace a more open-minded approach. So now we're going to use a Padlet for an assignment. Let's share a vulnerable moment. Imagine you wake up one day in a world where there's no dominant culture, where every culture is equally valued and celebrated. Which of your own biases would have to change to be reshaped? Where might these biases come from? Are they influenced by media, personal experiences, or cultural upbringing? What specific changes would you need to make within yourself to fully embrace and appreciate the diversity of different cultures, including traditions and values that clash with your own? So bias against refugee men is a complex issue rooted in societal attitudes, cultural stereotypes, and media portrayals. There are several reasons why bias against refugee men may exist, and it's important to understand these factors to address and overcome them. One significant reason for bias against refugee men is fear and misconceptions. Negative media portrayals and misinformation about refugees can worsen stereotypes and can create a climate of fear and suspicion. And when people are unfamiliar with the experiences and backgrounds of refugees, it can lead to misunderstandings and biases. Also, cultural differences can play a role in bias against refugee men. When host communities and refugees come from different cultural backgrounds, there can be a cultural misunderstanding, unfamiliarity with customs and traditions and language barriers. Also, these differences can contribute to biases, prejudice, as people may have assumptions and limited understanding of each other's perspectives. The perception of threat is another factor contributing to bias against refugee men. Some individuals may perceive refugees, including men, as a threat to their economic, social, and cultural stability, and this perception can lead to the dehumanization and marginalization of refugee men, reinforcing biases and discrimination. Also, political factors can influence bias against refugee men, so anti-immigration sentiments or policies, as well as political rhetoric, can shape public opinions and contribute to biases. Political discourse often focuses on highlighting potential risks and challenges, and that can further stigmatize and marginalize refugee men. Having biases as, for example, social worker or therapist can significantly impact intervention work with male perpetrators. And here are ways biases can influence the intervention process, which are: number one, stereotyping. So biases can lead to stereotyping, where one can make assumptions about male perpetrators based on preconceived notions or generalizations, and this can hinder the development of accurate understanding and the individual's unique circumstances, motivations, and needs. Number two is, of course, lack of empathy. Biases can create barriers to empathizing with male perpetrators, and when biases cloud professional judgment, social workers or therapists may struggle to understand the underlying factors contributing to human behavior, and this may find it challenging to genuinely empathize with the individual. Number three, unequal treatment. So biases can result in unequal treatment or unfair judgment. Professionals may unintentionally provide different levels of support or engage discriminatory practices based on their biases, impacting the effectiveness of integrity or intervention. Number four, misdiagnosis or misinterpretation. Biases can lead to misdiagnosis or misinterpretation of the individual's behavior. Professionals may only attribute these harmful behaviors to cultural factors, ethnicities, or other factors, disregarding the complex interplay of individual, societal, or systemic influences. Then there's number four, lack of cultural sensitivity. Biases can undermine the importance of cultural sensitivity in intervention work. Social workers or therapists may overlook the cultural context and unique experiences of refugee perpetrators, failing to understand specific cultural norms, values, or trauma that may contribute to harmful behavior. Number six, impaired rapport or trust. Biases can hinder the establishment of rapport and trust between the professionals and the person of concern. If the individual perceives bias or judgment, it may less be likely to engage openly and honestly in the intervention process, hindering progress and healing. So you have a little role play where each of you can, start reading. Maybe one of you can play Rachel, the other one can play the male perpetrator, and then we can discuss. So, the scene is Rachel's office. Rachel is conducting an intake assessment with Thomas, a male perpetrator. So Rachel, good morning. Thank you for coming today. I understand there was an incident of violence involving you and your partner, Lisa. Can you tell me what happened? Yes, there was an argument between us and I acted violently. I deeply regret my actions and want to change. Thomas, as a refugee from Lapland, it's important for you to integrate into our society and adopt to our cultural norms. How do you plan to adjust your behavior to fit in better and avoid these types of incidents? Well, I understand the importance of integrating into community, but it's not just about adopting to one's cultural norm, it's about embracing diversity and understanding that cultural differences exist. I want to work in a developing healthy relationship and addressing the underlying issues that contributed to this incident. I need to emphasize the need for you to conform to our societal expectations. It is crucial that you understand and respect our cultural values and traditions. This will help you to avoid conflicts and violence in the future. I appreciate your concern, but it's important to recognize that cultural values can differ and that integration does not mean abandoning one's culture entirely. It is about finding balance and creating a space where different cultures can coexist harmoniously. I also want to address the trauma that you may have experienced as a refugee, but it's essential for you to focus on moving forward, leaving the past behind. Dwelling on your past can hinder your integration and personal growth. Ignoring it won't let me heal, nor have a healthier future. I hope you understand this is not about you, but about your partner, and she needs to be safe from you. And then Ahmad stonewalls, his expression becomes guarded and closed up. How did you feel as the social worker? How did you feel as the person who was Thomas, who played Thomas? All right, so now we talk about strategies to address biases. So to mitigate the impact of biases in intervention work with male perpetrators, it is important for us to engage in ongoing self-reflection and cultural competence training. So here I listed a brief summary of some strategies to address. Number one, self-awareness. Reflect on personal biases and actively challenge them. Acknowledge the potential impact of biases on professional practice to commit to addressing them to ensure fair and unbiased treatment. Cultural competence. Invest in continuous learning and development of cultural competence. Seek about different values and experiences to better understand and respond to the unique needs of male perpetrators from diverse backgrounds. Number three, reflective practice. Regularly reflect on interactions with male perpetrators, seeking to identify and address any biases that may have influenced assessment interventions. Engage in supervision or consultation to gain diverse perspectives and challenge biases. Empathy and non-judgment. Cultivate a mindset of empathy and non-judgment in working with male perpetrators. Strive to understand the individual experiences, motivations, and challenges without generalization or stereotype-based bias. Number 5, cultural sensitivity. Develop cultural sensitivity in interventions. Consider cultural norms, values, and experiences when formulating interventions and tailor approaches to meet the specific needs, specific cultural needs of male perpetrators. And then the last point is collaborative approach. To engage male perpetrators as active participants in the intervention process, to foster open dialogue, mutual respect, and shared decision-making, promoting a collaborative environment that recognizes the agency and fosters positive change. Next one is power dynamics in workshop and working with migrant perpetrators. So another point is power dynamics. So working with perpetrators, it is important to be aware of power dynamics that can arise in these interactions. These power dynamics can have significant impact on the effectiveness of our interventions and the overall experience for the perpetrator. One important aspect is to consider the power imbalance between the excuse me, practitioner and perpetrator. So this can arise from differences in social status, professional authority, or legal implications. And recognizing actively addressing this power imbalance is crucial to create a safe and respectful environment where the perpetrator feels comfortable and also willing to engage in the intervention process. Also cultural imbalances, excuse me, also cultural power is another important factor to be mindful of. So we must recognize the potential cultural biases and assumptions that may exist and ensure our interventions are culturally sensitive and respectful. So by empowering the perpetrator to express their cultural identity and addressing any cultural power differentials, we can foster more equitable relationships. And then there's gender power dynamics. So these dynamics also come into play when working with migrant perpetrators. So gender roles, stereotypes, and societal expectations can influence our interactions and perceptions. It's essential to be aware of these dynamics and to ensure that our interventions are free from gender biases, providing equal opportunities for self-reflection, growth, and accountability. Then we have legal powers. So legal powers hold significant influence over perpetrators involved in legal proceeding under probationary conditions. So the legal system can impose restrictions, consequences, and monitoring measures shaping the perpetrator's behavior and actions. So the power imbalances between the legal system and the perpetrator can impact their engagement, compliance, and overall progress within the interventions, especially when the law is foreign to them, to their displacement. Also, socioeconomic power can affect the dynamics of interventions. Socioeconomic factors such as education, income, and social support networks can create disparities to resources and opportunities. So practitioners must be mindful of these disparities and strive to address them to ensure equitable support interventions. And by understanding the impact of socioeconomic power, practitioners can work towards reducing inequalities and empowering perpetrators to make positive changes in their lives. Another critical aspect to consider is intersectionality, which recognizes the power dynamic that can intersect with social identities such as race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. So as mentioned before, individual processes are unique combinations of intersecting identities that influence the experience and power dynamic that they navigate. And it is essential for practitioners to be aware of these intersections and the potential complexities they introduce to the intervention process. And by acknowledging the influence of intersectionality, practitioners can adopt a more nuanced and inclusive approach, ensuring that interventions address the specific needs and experiences of each individual. Cultural power plays have a significant role in shaping intervention work with perpetrators of the migrant population, so it is crucial to be aware how power influences our assumptions, biases, and expectations when working with individuals of different cultural backgrounds. So cultural power can affect the way we perceive and interpret the behaviors and experiences of male perpetrators, and it can also lead to prioritization of dominant cultures, values, and norms, potentially overlooking the unique cultural perspectives and needs of perpetrators. This can result in interventions that are ineffective, culturally insensitive, or even perpetuate stereotypes and discrimination. So to address this impact of cultural power, it's important to actively challenge and question our own cultural bias and assumption. This requires self-reflection, cultural humility, and willingness to learn from the perspectives and experiences of the migrant perpetrators, and also involves recognizing the diversity within cultures and avoiding generalizations that can perpetuate stereotypes. So promoting cultural sensitivity and equity in intervention work requires actively incorporating the cultural identities, values, and beliefs of perpetrators into intervention strategies. So this may involve adapting interventions to align with their cultural backgrounds, engaging cultural mediations, and create a safe space, an inclusive space that respects values and cultural differences. And additionally, we should be mindful of power imbalances that may exist due to cultural differentials. So this includes addressing any power dynamics that may hinder open communication, trust building, and collaboration with the perpetrator. So by creating an environment that values and respects cultural diversity, practitioners can foster a more inclusive and effective intervention process. Does anyone maybe have examples from your own experience in cultural power, something you have observed maybe you want to share? The next point is balancing cultural consideration and individual agency. So before we dive more into cultural sensitivity, we might ask ourselves at this point, at least I did in the process of this presentation. On the one hand, we say we should consider cultural, but on the other hand, we shouldn't assume that culture is the reason for the behavior. So how does it even make sense? It's about striking a delicate balance between considering culture and acknowledging individual agency. So when you consider culture, you aim to be culturally sensitive and aware of potential impact of our cultural backgrounds on individuals' values and behaviors. And you also recognize that cultural influences can shape our worldviews, beliefs, and ways of interacting with others. And by understanding and appreciating different cultural contexts, you can approach each person with empathy and respect. However, it is crucial to avoid falling into the trap of making assumptions and perpetuating stereotypes solely based on culture. So you must recognize that individuals are complex beings influenced by various factors such as personal experience, individual choices, and the diverse environments they navigate. Also, our goal is to view each person as an individual, respecting their agency and valuing their unique characteristics and experiences. So we aim to strike a balance between cultural consideration and acknowledging the multifaceted nature of human behavior. So this means while culture may play a role in shaping our perspectives, it does not define us entirely. And also by adopting this nuanced perspective, you can avoid cultural stereotyping and recognize the individual agency of each person. So it's about valuing their choices, understanding their personal circumstances, and embracing their individuality. And you want to create an environment that fosters inclusivity, where everyone feels seen and respected for who they are. Also, as a professional, we strive to be culturally sensitive while promoting the empowerment and self-determination of individuals. So we understand that behavior is influenced by complex interplay of cultural, social, and personal factors. And by embracing this understanding, we can better support individuals, tailor interventions to their unique needs, and create a more inclusive and effective approach in our work. So what does it make you think of? When you hear the terms cultural sensitivity, what is the first word that comes to mind? Let's discuss. So now I want to discuss the relevance of cultural sensitivity in our work with male refugees, particularly when addressing perpetration-related issues. So culture-sensitive perpetrator work acknowledges and respects the diverse backgrounds and experiences of male refugees. Let's maybe explore together how we can integrate cultural sensitivity into our practices. So first and foremost, cultural sensitivity means understanding and appreciating the values, customs, traditions, beliefs, and practices of different cultures. So it requires us to recognize the influence of cultural backgrounds, including ethnicity, nationality, religion, language, and social norms of the individual we can work with. And by avoiding judgment, prejudice, and stereotypes, we can create an inclusive environment, actively listening to the stories and experiences of male refugees without making assumptions based on cultural stereotypes, which allows for meaningful engagement. And to be more culturally sensitive, we must adapt our practices. So this involves investing in learning about specific cultures and backgrounds of the male refugees we work with. So engaging in cross-cultural experiences and challenging our own assumptions and biases that are essential steps towards developing cultural empathy and self-awareness. Also, empathy plays a vital role in our work. It requires us to put ourselves in the shoe of male refugees, understanding their emotions, challenges, and aspirations. Also, self-awareness, on the other hand, helps us to recognize our own biases and privileges, and by being aware of cultural lens, we can navigate cross-cultural interactions more effectively, minimizing understandings and unintended harm. Also, the outcomes of practicing cultural sensitivity are significant, and by creating an environment that respects and values diversity, we foster positive relationships with male refugees, reduce conflicts, misunderstandings, and increased harmony and inclusivity are the natural results of such approach. So 10 reasons why this is important. Cultural sensitivity is a vital aspect of working with male migrant perpetrators, as it encompasses a range of considerations that contribute to effective interventions and positive outcomes. So first and foremost, cultural sensitivity plays a crucial role in building trust between the therapist, social worker, or intervention provider and the perpetrator, and by demonstrating an understanding and appreciation for the cultural background, values, and beliefs, practitioners create a safe and non-judgmental environment for open and honest dialogue to take place. So this foundation of trust is essential for establishing a therapeutic relationship that promotes collaboration and facilitates the perpetrator's willingness to engage in the intervention process. Also, cultural sensitivity enhances our understanding of the perpetrator's experience. So by delving into their cultural context, we gain valuable insights into the root causes and underlying factors that may contribute to the harmful behaviors. So recognizing the influence of culture allows us to approach interventions with greater empathy, compassion, moving beyond surface level judgments to address underlying issues and challenge they face. And one of the key elements of cultural sensitivity is the ability to tailor interventions to the unique cultural context of the perpetrator. So this involves acknowledging and incorporating cultural practices, norms, and beliefs that are relevant to their experiences. And by doing so, we increase the relevance of effectiveness of our interventions as they are more closely aligned with our individual's identity and specific needs. So respecting diversity is another fundamental aspect of cultural sensitivity. It recognizes that each perpetrator is an individual with unique cultural background and set of experiences. And by acknowledging the diversity with the migrant male perpetrator population, we avoid generalizations and stereotypes that perpetuate biases and hinder our ability to understand the circumstances accurately. So instead, we approach them as complex individuals with a range of experiences and perspectives that shape the behaviors as mentioned before. And cultural sensitivity also entails addressing the cultural influences that may contribute to the perpetrator's behavior. So by understanding the cultural factors that shape their worldview, beliefs, and socialization, we gain more comprehensive understanding of the circumstances, and this insight allows us to tailor interventions that address these influences, promote self-awareness, and facilitate personal growth and change. Another critical aspect of cultural sensitivity is promoting empathy. So by considering specific challenges faced by migrant male perpetrators within the cultural context, we foster empathy and compassion. And this empathetic approach helps us to create a supportive environment that acknowledges the complexity of circumstances and encourages them to actively participate in their own healing and transformation. Also, cultural sensitivity extends to the integration of communities, resources, and practices. So by bridging the gap between the perpetrator's cultural community of the host country we can leverage community involvement and support in the intervention process. So this collaboration enhances the relevance and effectiveness of interventions and facilitates the perpetrator's successful integration to their community. And lastly, cultural sensitivity has long-term impacts by addressing the specific cultural nuances and influences the shape of perpetrator behavior. We contribute to sustainable change by promoting healthier relationships, prevent further harm, and empower perpetrators to become positive contributors to the communities. We create a lasting impact that extends beyond the intervention period. So guidelines for cultural sensitivity in perpetrator work. So cultivate cultural awareness by continuously educating yourself about the diverse cultural backgrounds of migrant perpetrators. So it's important that you invest time in learning about cultures, traditions, and customs of the migrant and refugee perpetrator you work with. It's important to be mindful of nonverbal cues, to recognize that they may vary across cultures and interpreting them in a culture-sensitive manner. It's important to address power imbalances by fostering an environment of equality and respect, so value the voices and perspectives of migrant perpetrators. It is important to adapt interventions and approaches to align with the cultural background and the needs of migrant perpetrators, to recognize that one-size-fits-it-all approach may not be effective when working with this population, and also to seek supervision and consultation from experienced professionals. So engage in supervision or consultation with professionals who have expertise in cultural sensitivity and perpetrator work with migrants. So example sentences are: I encourage you to reflect on how your actions align with the values and respect. Let's explore alternative behaviors. And as a debate-based approach example would be: I would like to learn more about the support system within your cultural community. Let's involve in our work together. I want to understand your unique experiences. Let's talk about it. So instead of saying things like, oh, your cultural beliefs are wrong, I would like to understand more about your cultural beliefs and how they contribute to our perspectives. Or instead of saying your cultural norms are oppressive, you say, how do cultural norms have grown up with impact your understanding of power dynamics? Have any of you ever encountered a situation where one person of concern did not want to work with you because you're a woman? If yes, how did it make you feel? Please share. Well, sometimes we encounter an awkward situation where the person of concern does not want to work with a female professional. So I have been asked several times in the past how to navigate this. As I have also been in such a situation before, and trust me, it took a lot out of me not to be reacting a certain way. Of course, it's a very triggering moment. So here are some suggestions that might work for us. So to begin with, it is important to validate and empathize with the individual's feelings and concerns. So by acknowledging their discomfort, we create a safe space for open dialogue. And by offering choices, it is also another key step into the process. So providing alternative options, such as working with male social worker or cultural mediator, that allows the individual to have a sense of agency and control over their understanding of their cultural personal reasons behind the preference. It's also important to offer choices, to provide alternative options, such as working with a male social worker or cultural mediator, and so on. Present the alternatives and emphasize. While doing so, it is important to expand professional boundaries, assure the individual that social workers, regardless of gender, adhere to professional ethics and maintain strict boundaries to ensure their safety, privacy, and confidentiality. This explanation helps to address any misconceptions or fears that may arise, and consider involving a cultural mediator or trusted community member to facilitate the intervention process. So this mediator can work alongside the social worker, providing cultural guidance and bridging potential communication gaps. And their involvement helps to ensure cultural sensitivity and enhances the individual's comfort and engagement. It's also important to collaborate with the individual support network. That can also be beneficial to engage family members, community leaders, or religious figures who can help address concerns and provide insights. These individuals can play a vital role in explaining the importance of addressing the issue and benefits of working with male social worker and finding suitable solutions that respect cultural values. Also, flexibility in team composition should be considered if available. So modifying the compositions to include a male social worker or professional the individual feels more comfortable working with and can help to alleviate their discomfort. It ensures that their preferences are respected while still providing the necessary support and interventions. And throughout the intervention process, maintaining ongoing reassessment and open dialogue is crucial. So continually assess the individual's comfort level and willingness to engage with the chosen approach and create a safe space for them to express any concerns or discomfort and be prepared to adapt the approach if needed. In this way, this ongoing communication is essential for building trust and maintaining a respectful, effective working relationship. And it's also important to at least mention cultural norms. So however, cultural norms can vary significantly across different cultures and communities. And these examples should be understood within the specific cultural context and not assumed or applied universally, of course. So cultural norms are deeply ingrained in society's shape our beliefs, behaviors, and expectations. They play a significant role in perpetrating or challenging domestic violence dynamics. So let's explore them together. One prominent factor is patriarchal norms, as we all know by now, and in cultures where male dominance is controlled or prioritized within relationships, domestic violence may be justified or accepted. Honor and shame are also influential cultural norms. Silence and privacy norms can hinder intervention efforts. Norms of obedience and respect can contribute to domestic violence dynamics. Societal expectations of masculinity can also play a significant role. Cultural norms that place pressure on men to display characteristics like strength, toughness, and so on can discourage emotional expression and promote the use of aggression. Gender roles and responsibilities can reinforce domestic violence. Lack of gender equality is another influential factor. Societies with deep-rooted gender inequalities may foster environments where domestic violence is more prevalent. Norms of conflict and resolution may also impact domestic violence and so on. And beliefs about entitlement and control are prevalent in some cultures. Cultural norms that can convey a sense of entitlement over intimate partners reinforce the belief that men have the right to control, discipline women with relationships, can contribute to domestic violence and perpetration. And it is important to note that cultural norms can vary significantly across different cultures, communities, and individuals. And these explanations should be understood within the specific cultural context. Also, addressing these norms requires a nuanced understanding of specific cultural backgrounds and commitment to understand promoting positive cultural change. So balancing cultural relativism and practices should be assessed and understood within their own cultural context without exposing any external judgment. So it is important to promote cultural understanding without condoning harmful behaviors. It's important to emphasize human rights and dignity, so to highlight universal principles of human rights, It's important to challenge harmful cultural norms, to encourage critical reflection on cultural norms and practices that perpetuate violence or inequality, to foster open dialogue and education, to create a safe and non-judgmental space where participants can openly discuss cultural norms and their impact behavior, to engage community leaders and influencers, to collaborate with community leaders, elders, and influencers who can help address cultural misconceptions and challenge harmful behaviors. Empowerment through self-reflection, to encourage participants to critically reflect their own values and actions, questioning whether certain behaviors align with their own personal ethics and aspirations. And professional training and support, to ensure that professionals working with this field receive ongoing training on cultural sensitivity, trauma-informed care, and best practices for addressing violence. So here's a case study I would like you to work on in breakout rooms. So the background is John is a refugee who recently resettled in a host country. He comes from a culture with strong patriarchal norms and limited discussions around gender equality. He has been reported for domestic violence against his partner. John's upbringing and cultural background have influenced his behavior. He has socialized. He has socialized to believe that men are dominant and have culture and have control over their family members. These cultural beliefs, combined with the stressors and displacement and adjusting to a new culture, have contributed to his violent actions. Now I'd like to put you into breakout rooms. So here are the breakout rooms. How would you approach the situation while maintaining cultural sensitivity and avoiding stigmatization? In this scenario, the perpetrator's cultural background greatly influences their behavior. What cultural considerations would you consider while developing an intervention plan? How can you as professionals work with perpetrators of refugee status into the interventions? What are some strategies for self-reflection and ongoing professional development to enhance cultural humility and address personal biases that may impact your work with male refugees? So cultural humility is approaching individuals and cultures with openness, respect, and willingness to learn. So what are the most interesting insights you got from this discussion? Let's exchange. Also, a little reminder for you to know, so cultural norms are not a sole reason for patriarchal beliefs. Eurocentric cultural norms are not superior to any other cultural belief. Practitioners should maintain a nuanced understanding of cultural influences, and cultural biases promote accountability. So, here's another example, and another example that I have, Jason. So Jason is a 25-year-old refugee who's receiving assistance from local service agency due to his involvement in DV. So this is like, this is an example for an intervention. His behavior is stemmed from deeply ingrained cultural beliefs about gender roles and power dynamics. What culture-sensitive intervention strategies could be implemented? What do you think? Let's share. So, here's an example. To address the individual's need while maintaining cultural sensitivity and avoiding stigmatization, a comprehensive intervention plan was implemented. So the first crucial step was building trust and rapport. So the social worker acknowledged and respected the individual's cultural background, demonstrating empathy and genuine interest in understanding their experiences and values. So cultural understanding and education played a vital role in the intervention process. So the social worker embarked a journey of research and learning about the cultural norms, traditions, and values prevalent in the individual's country of origin. So this deepened their understanding of underlying factors that influenced behavior. So collaborative goal setting was another essential aspect in the intervention. So the social worker engaged in the individual in the process, allowing them to express their aspiration and values within the context of their cultural background. So the individual expressed a desire to maintain family harmony while also respecting the partner's insights and well-being. And psychoeducation on gender equality was a significant component of the intervention. So culturally tailored sessions were designed that highlighted values promoting equity and also compassion and respect in relationships. So these sessions were conducted in a non-judgmental manner. And they were also fostering an environment that encouraged open discussion and critical thinking. And also recognizing the significance of cultural mediators, community leaders, imams, and elders were involved in the intervention process. So they provided guidance, challenged harmful beliefs, and offered a nuanced understanding of the individual's cultural context. And these collaborations ensured cultural sensitivity and avoided cultural insensitivity and stigmatization. Also, exploring alternative masculinities within the cultural context was another important step. So the group discussions were facilitated that encouraged the individual to question traditional notions in manhood, and also skill building for their conflict resolution was a critical part. So culturally relevant sessions were provided on effective communication, conflict resolution and nonviolent problems, role plays, case studies, and so on. And safety planning, considering cultural considerations, was developed with individual. A plan identified trusted community members, cultural spaces, and resources that could support them and their partner in times of conflict. So cultural rituals or practices that enhance safety and well-being were also incorporated. So now I want to discuss some key strategies that can guide us in our efforts to provide culturally sensitive interventions. So there's anger management, to understand cultural backgrounds and experiences, to recognize that cultural factors can influence the expression and perception of anger, to consider how cultural values, beliefs, and experiences shape one's understanding of anger, to recognize cultural triggers and contributing factors, to be aware of specific cultural triggers that may lead to anger aggression, and to understand the cultural factors that contribute to anger, such as migration, understanding of anger. And also to recognize cultural triggers and contributing factors, to be aware of specific cultural triggers that may lead to anger or aggression, to validate and acknowledge cultural context, to validate individuals' experiences and emotions, and to develop healthier ways of expressing and regulating emotions, to consider cultural norms and communication styles, to respect cultural values, expectations, and gender dynamics, to understand cultural nuances and empathy, to teach conflict resolution and with sensitivity and cultural norms, and to create a culturally inclusive and safe space, to recognize and respect diverse cultural backgrounds, to encourage peer support, accountability, and learning, and to address cultural barriers and stigmas to open dialogue. And then there's restorative justice, which I would like to present to you. So restorative justice is an approach that focuses on healing, on repairing relationships, and to promoting accountability. So when working with refugee perpetrators, as you know, take into account their unique experiences and cultural context. So it emphasizes the need for repair and healing. We recognize the specific challenges and traumas that refugees may have experienced, and by addressing the harm caused by their actions, we aim to promote healing for all parties involved, including the refugee perpetrator themselves. Also, restorative justice is an exclusive and participatory process, so it involves all stakeholders in a facilitated dialogue by circle, including the perpetrator, the victim, and the relevant community members. And by providing platforms for open and honest dialogue, we seek to foster empathy and understanding. Accountability and responsibility are central to restorative justice. So refugee perpetrators are encouraged to take accountability for their actions and make amends. So this involves acknowledging the harm done, offering sincere apologies, and actively working towards repairing the harm and preventing future harm. So in working with refugee perpetrators, it is essential to consider the cultural context and involve the community as mentioned before. So culturally sensitive facilitators and community members can provide guidance, supporting accountability, and by engaging the community, we promote a collective responsibility for addressing harm, promoting healing. So refugee safety and well-being are paramount in restorative justice process. So one could ensure a safe and culturally respectful environment for dialogue, so taking into account the specific needs and vulnerabilities of the refugee population. So this enables participants to feel secure in sharing their experiences and perspectives. Also, participation in restorative justice process is voluntarily, of course, so it respects the individual choices of refugee perpetrators and considers cultural considerations when engaging with them. And also this ensures that their voices are heard and their consent is valued, of course. And finally, restorative justice is outcome-oriented. We strive to achieve positive outcomes for all parties involved, including refugee perpetrators, and this outcome may include restoration, reconciliation, increased understanding, reduced repetition and harmful behaviors, and the rebuilding of trust and relationships within the refugee community. So collaborative safety planning involves engaging the perpetrator in a process of creating a safety plan that addresses their specific cultural challenges while ensuring the safety of themselves and others. So here is how to be approached. So culturally informed risk assessment means conducting a risk assessment that takes into account cultural factors such as the impact of family or community dynamics, the potential honor-related violence, or the presence of cultural norms that may cause violence. And this helps to identify the unique risks and safety concerns faced by the perpetrator. Then we have involvement of cultural mediators. So engage cultural mediators or community leaders from the same cultural backgrounds, really important, as the perpetrator to provide insights and guidance during the safety planning process. So their involvement helps to ensure cultural sensitivity and enhances the perpetrator's willingness to engage in safety planning. And then we have strength-based approaches to focus on the perpetrator's strength, resources, and cultural protective factors when developing the safety plan. So recognize and build up on their existing support networks, cultural traditions, and community connections that can provide a safety net. So safety strategies within cultural context, collaboratively develop safety strategies that respect and align with the cultural context of the perpetrator. This may involve identifying trusted community members, cultural spaces, or religious institutions that can provide support and protection. Also incorporate cultural rituals or practices that enhance the individual's sense of safety and well-being. Also, ongoing evaluation and adjustment, continuously review and adjust the safety plan as needed, take into consideration the involving cultural dynamics, the perpetrator progress, and any changes their circumstances shows. Also, regularly check in to ensure that the plan remains effective, culturally appropriate, and responsive to the needs of the perpetrator. So for the asset-based approach, for the culturally sensitive education on gender equality, it's important to have diverse representation, to include diverse cultural perspectives, cultural contextualization, to recognize and also to discuss how these cultural norms shape perceptions, how to involve perpetrator migrants in the development of educational content, and also to the respect for cultural differences, which we have mentioned before. So Here's one of the approaches of personal support due to personal experiences. It's called the asset-based approach, and it's all about recognizing and leveraging the strengths, capabilities, and resources. So we firmly believe that every individual has inherent strength and potential for growth, even in the face of harmful behavior, and there are key elements of this approach. So first, cultivating self-awareness is essential. We guide perpetrators to recognize their strengths and values and positive qualities. Through self-reflection, they gain insight into the impact of their behavior of themselves and others, sparking a genuine desire for change. Next, building empathy and emotional intelligence is transformative. So by working them in the therapeutic interventions, perpetrators learn to understand the emotions and experiences of others, including survivors. So this cultivates empathy and promotes healthier ways of relating to others. And then there's responsible decision making, which is a cornerstone, of course. Encouraging perpetrators to take accountability for their actions is crucial. So by promoting responsible decision making, they make choices aligned with respect, accountability, and nonviolence. So conflict resolution skills, positive communication, understanding consequences play a significant role. And then there's developing healthy coping strategies. So we help the perpetrator acquire effective anger management techniques, stress reduction methods, and alternative means of repressing their emotions. So equipping them with healthy coping mechanisms allow them to navigate challenges without resorting to abusive behavior. So toxic masculinity is a challenge to the promotion of positive masculinity, and we redefine manhood, emphasizing empathy, respect, and nonviolence. Also, recognizing and leveraging cultural strength is crucial, so integrating cultural values, community support systems, and traditional healing practices acknowledge the significance of cultural identity and empowers perpetrators to draw their cultural resources in transformation. And collaborative support networks are vital, so involving community members, mentors, and support groups that provide positive role models and accountability structures. Also, through the asset-based approach, professionals still hope agency. Through the asset-based approach, professionals instill hope, agency, and personal growth within perpetrator migrant men. So here I have a case study of the asset-based approach. It's a bit too good to be true, of course. The background is Ali. He's a 40-year-old migrant man from culturally diverse background, sought intervention into services due to his involvement in domestic violence incidents, and Ali's behavior was influenced by cultural norms surrounding gender roles and power dynamics. So first, we did the strength assessment. The intervention team conducted a comprehensive strength assessment to identify his unique skills and abilities. Cultural sensitive engagement. The team recognized the importance of cultural sensitivity and established rapport with Ali by acknowledging and respecting his cultural background. They actively listened to his experiences, validating his feelings, and demonstrating empathy to build trust. And then there's cultural self-reflection. So Ali was encouraged to reflect on the positive aspects of his cultural heritage and personal identity. So the team supported him in exploring how cultural strength and values and traditions could be channeled towards building healthy relationships and addressing conflict non-violently. And collaborative goal setting. So he actively participated in setting goals aligned with cultural context and personal aspirations. And skill enhancement. The intervention focused on enhancing Ali's communication, conflict resolution, emotional regulation skills, and community involvement. Recognizing the significance of community support, the team engaged Ali's community members, religious leaders, and trusted individuals in the intervention process. And the outcome, so through the asset-based approach, Ali experienced significant growth and behavior change, leveraging his cultural strength, and became an advocate for nonviolent relationships within his community. Please feel free to share your wisdom in breakout rooms. How can an asset-based approach contribute to the prevention of future violence by perpetrated migrant men? Reflect on the challenges and potential limitations of implementing an asset-based approach when working with perpetrator migrant women. How can we address these challenges and further enhance the effectiveness of the approach? In what ways can we support them in developing healthy relationships skills and addressing underlying factors that contribute to violence? So, here are a few out-of-the-box suggestions that can be considered. So mindfulness can be a powerful tool, of course, as some of you might know, that can be incorporated into interventions with perpetrator refugees in a culturally sensitive manner. So by adapting mindfulness techniques to reflect on cultural traditions, values, and spirituality of these individuals, we can enhance their engagement and well-being. Also, one way to make mindfulness more accessible and relatable is by introducing culturally relative meditation practices. And another approach is to explore and integrate cultural mindfulness rituals. This can be practices like a prayer, gratitude rituals, or engaging mindful movements that are rooted in the perpetrator's cultural heritage. This can be, of course, designed together, which encourages more involvement of the person. Also, facilitating group mindfulness activities can be powerful. So when the perpetrator practices mindfulness together as a group, it can create a shared experience that fosters a sense of community and support. And then, of course, we have narrative therapy, which offers valuable techniques for working with perpetrator refugees, with empowering them to transform their stories and behaviors. So just to explore some of these techniques, which I find actually quite amazing. So first we have externalizing the problem by giving the problem a name or persona, like violent conditioning or dominant mindset, and we help the perpetrator to separate themselves from the problematic behavior. This allows them to view it as something external that can then be challenged and changed. Next, we have the reauthoring the story. So this involves exploring alternative narratives and perspectives. So by highlighting moments when the perpetrator has exhibited nonviolent or respectful behavior, emphasizing their strengths, values, and aspirations, we empower them to reconstruct the narrative and develop new self-identity aligned with desired behaviors. Also, cultural reflections play a crucial role, encouraging critical reflection on the cultural norms, gender roles, and social expectations that have influenced the perpetrator's beliefs and behaviors. So by renegotiating harmful cultural beliefs and adopting healthier alternatives, the perpetrator can challenge the impact of cultural conditioning. So creating opportunities for witnessing and reauthoring the community is vital. So through therapy groups or engagement with cultural elders, the perpetrator can share the story, receiving validation and support, and this involvement fosters a sense of belonging, accountability, and encouragement for positive change. Also, documenting progress is important for reinforcement, so encouraging the perpetrator to journal, create artwork, or record video reflections provides tangible representation of their journey, and it also allows them to revisit and reinforce their new narrative, and they can change and the changes they have made. And linking personal and cultural stories can help the perpetrator to understand the connections between the individual experiences and broader cultural narratives, and by identifying cultural myths, stereotypes, or historical events that have influenced their beliefs and behaviors, they gain insights into the larger cultural context. And finally, reconnecting with cultural roots is essential. So by exploring positive aspects of their cultural heritage, such as traditional practices, rituals, and so on, the perpetrator can draw these resources to guide their behavior and the change they have made. And remember, the techniques are not prescriptive, but should be adapted to each individual's cultural background, preferences, and readiness for change. So collaboration and respecting the perpetrator's agency in shaping their own narrative are essential for their empowerment and transformation. So I hope you're feeling okay after this workshop? Were there any specific moments or topics in the workshop that resonated with you emotionally? Can you share how you felt in those moments? Has anything in this workshop challenged your preconceived notions? How comfortable do you feel with the concept of cultural relativism in the context of intervention work with perpetrator migrants? Are there any particular areas where you still have concerns or uncertainties or anything else you would like to talk about? So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution and patience and your wisdom and your outstanding insights. I feel very privileged to have had this workshop with you. Thank you so much.